Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Near Death Institute YouTube. I'm here with Doug Auld, and we're going to be doing an interview talking about his chapter. How are you today?
I'm doing fine. Thanks for asking. And how are you, Jade?
I'm good. I'm really excited to have this interview with you today. I got to say, I really enjoyed your chapter. Um, so let's just get right into it. So how do you think your love for mechanics, art, and sky watching came together to really inform and enrich your experience?
Oh, by the way, I think I called you Jade. I hope you don't mind,
Oh yeah, that's fine.
Jane. So my mechanics and everything.
hmm
Um, I think I think that being observant and being a problem solver, wanting to fit pieces together, wanting to have logic involved in things,
hmm
um, probably all. I mean, it's hard to say. It's like just a big combination of a number of different things that push you in a certain direction and that make you sort of a good candidate for doing certain things.
hmm
So since I like to organize things clearly and I'm very logical in a sense, I maybe it had to do with that. Okay, what's that? And if that's something that I'm seeing, I want to know what it is, and I want to be prepared for it the next time if it's something else. And so I want to have a camera and and so on. So I don't know, does that at all answer your question
Oh
or no?
yeah, it definitely makes sense how you're saying like everything, basically all of your disciplines that you had up until you started skywatching kind of all came together kind of perfectly for what you ended up doing anyway with the uh, you know, editing your camera and everything like that. I was like, oh, so I feel like if you didn't have the mechanical background that you had, maybe the idea of even just switching your camera over to the ultraviolet spectrum maybe wouldn't have occurred to you. So,
I think you make a great point because for example, my brother Greg is not so mechanical, not so tinkering hands-on, and he would have been probably like intimidated or not even like considered thinking about something like that.
hmm
Like I went into it and I'm like, all right, I'm going to do this. I'm going to change this part of the camera. I'm going to make sure that it's now infrared so that I can see a spectrum that I normally don't see. In fact, over the weekend, my Kawai electric piano stopped working and I know nothing about the electronics. I took the whole thing apart. I had everything all over the floor, the keyboard here, the there. I made some headway on it, but I didn't quite solve the problem yet. But I'm very much a person who likes to take things on. So in Mexico, I bought a night vision setup. I think I show that in the chapter
hmm
with the tripod and the night vision camera and the little screen that I can show everything. And I absolutely loved hooking that all up and buying all the material and the stuff and going to Mexico and sitting on my rooftop there and
hmm
like just laying back and like just scanning the sky. To me, that's a great evening.
That's awesome. What does the sky look much different with night vision?
Oh yeah, yeah. It's very much. I mean, you've seen aspects of it in movies with green
hmm
screen when you see military films and like if you watch anything like that where there's like raids and this and that or the men are going into um a military situation late at night and they have their night vision cameras on. They can see like daytime. So
Ah,
I don't have the exact type that those are, but I have one that's really, really good. And I don't know if I put it in the book, but I think I didn't because I think it's on film camera. It's on my night vision camera. I was looking straight up in the sky in Mexico on my roof, and I was looking and seeing nothing. And then when I took the night vision, I was seeing a thing moving right across the sky. So without the night vision, I would never have seen that. Through the night vision, it looked like a big, like huge star, like the
hmm
size of like the moon or something. It was quite big, slowly moving across, no sound, nothing. But without that night vision camera, I saw nothing. So think about that. Think about how many things are going on all the time
hmm
right under our nose that we don't know about.
Right. And it's really funny that you were where you were at that exact moment to even catch it, and
Yeah.
on top of it in, a different totally different light spectrum. That's amazing.
Well, that starts a whole other conversation, which is
Right.
was was I involved in the creation of that? So I mean,
Right.
I've got to ask myself that in a lot of moments. And also here in my town in Hoboken, I was out one night and I was with I just looked, normally it's on a tripod, but I was
Hmm.
just walking around with it and there was something going overhead also that was not there by visual, standard visual eyes. So why am I catching these things? Either there's a million of them in the sky all the time, or I'm a participant in this consciousness thing that we could talk about.
Right, right. So my second question for you is, how are you able to balance the analytical mind with like the metaphysical experiences that you detail in your chapter? Like, were these two ideas ever at odds with each other?
Well, I mean, I always want answers. And I'm a logical person. I want answers. I want to figure things out, so I'd like to come to a conclusion
Hmm.
on things. Yet I'm very, very well tuned to the idea of living in the question mark. There aren't
Hmm.
answers. There aren't answers to a lot of things, but I'm pragmatic. I don't like to exaggerate. I don't really. So in the book, I didn't put anything I didn't sizzle it up or,
Hmm.
hot sauce to anything. It's just the way it was. These are the
Hmm.
things that I saw. That's why I even say, I think early in the chapter, I mentioned that, they're not great flying saucer pictures or this and that, but they're objects that don't belong there or can't be figured out. And
Hmm.
so I'm curious about all that. And going back to my youth with all the different great shows that I used to watch, The Outer Limits and Twilight Zone and all the great films, I've always said to myself, yeah, there's life out there. There's got to be. Don't
Hmm.
give me a break that this is it. And that's like thinking that you see an anthill outside on your curb, and that's the only one in the neighborhood. It's like they're all over the place. But so I just like to kind of figure things out and get answers for myself. That um, that curiosity is problematic because
Hmm.
I studied so many things so deeply, 9/11 and Kennedy assassination and Sandy Hook, and to the point where people are like tired of hearing from me, or they don't want to go down those rabbit holes because they seem to uh, shake people up in their comfort zones. I had a friend
Right.
tell me once, "Don't challenge my comfort zone," and I'm like, "Why?" Like,
Isn't that
you're
the whole point?
yeah, no, not to everybody. So, and so, I mean, and I talk about this all the time. Why did building 7 fall and it wasn't hit by a plane and it fell at free fall? Free fall speed, meaning if you went 47 stories up in the air and you dropped a bowling ball, it fell at the same speed of the building.
Hmm.
How is that possible? What happened to the tons of steel holding it up? So these questions go off in my head all the time. So there's that logical, pragmatic mechanics person that's saying, well, that doesn't make sense. That can't be. And then there's that other side of me that's like just up to like open to the possibilities that I know nothing about. So
Hmm.
I
It
don't,
almost sounds like at a young age you were primed to kind of think outside of the box, watching shows like The Twilight Zone and whatnot that
yeah,
really question reality as we know it.
especially that I had parents that were so in the box that it was unbelievable. My mom and
Really?
dad didn't necessarily. Oh my God, yeah, they were very pragmatic. Although they were wonderful people. My mom's way of babysitting us was stick us in front of the television. So my brother Greg and I put like something called $1 Million Movie at the time, where they would show the same horror film 3 times a day.
Huh.
So if we were watching it on a Saturday and it came on at 9 in the morning, and they'd be like, "Thank you for watching Godzilla. If you'd like to see it again, it starts in 1 hour." And we'd watch it all day. And my mother would come in the room, and go, "Didn't you watch that already?" Like, no, no, it's just coming on for the first time. So we were a little little fakers with that. But I just loved all the question marks of everything. I've
Mhm.
always just been drawn to anything that has to do with outer space, alien beings, all that stuff. Since
Mhm. I love that. That so you basically got a really good concoction going in here. We've got like a love for space and aliens, a love for mechanics, a love for photography, and then you mix that up and you get this awesome, yes, you do have craft on video and you have it in infrared and you have it this way, this location. I love it. It's like some people struggle with, me being like, oh, I feel like it was divinely guided. I feel like, this
yeah,
is your purpose. But it really seems that way. It seems like you've just got the perfect, you know, concoction going on for what you have pretty much already, shown in this chapter.
I think I mentioned in the chapter that as a kid, before they even knew anything about diagnosing dyslexia,
Mm-hmm.
I realized I am dyslexic. I realized it later. I struggled so much with reading, so I felt so embarrassed and like behind the class. Everyone was doing better than me, and so on. And that's what started me looking out the window and going, "All right, I'm not doing this. I'm going to just." That was the beginning of my sky watching. It was just daydreaming and wondering
Mm,
this, that, and birds and animals. We got to add animals and nature to everything in the beginning too.
mm-hmm.
So it was animals in nature and catching frogs and turtles. And again, how does this work? How does this little creature move or whatever it was? And so really it boils down to curiosity and problem solving.
Mm-hmm. I
It's
really
very
like
much
that.
about, I really liked, I'm curious and then I want to problem solve. I want to figure out how did that work? What is that? And what's going on? It's right in front of me. I want to question it.
Right. I feel like anybody in this field of like ufology kind of has to have some of those aspects to really
Yeah.
get anywhere because if you come at it with like an idea like, oh, this isn't real, I'm just trying to disprove it and blah blah blah, like you might get some results, but if you come with like an open mind, like it seems like you've done, just being like, what is it? I just want to know. I have no preconceived notions about it whatsoever. Just let me see what I see.
Yeah, yeah, no, I think so. And again, I'll never really know, but there's that one particular sighting in the book that I have the pearlescent orb.
Hmm.
It's like this beautiful pearlescent color and everything. And just the day that I saw it, and the fact that I sat on the church steps near my house and sort of knew I knew something was coming. I knew it.
Hmm.
I'm like, all right, I'm all ready. If people remember the movie Close Encounters of the Third Kind, when they all get
Hmm.
up on the hill and they're like waiting for the ships, it's sort of like, and I'm not saying it was any big deal. I don't know what it was, but it was not anything normal. It's
Hmm.
not anything that fits under the guidelines of planes, helicopters, drones, and nothing like that. It's like a spiritual thing.
Hmm.
And I remember it affected me very deeply. I really felt that an angel or a guide or something was watching me or gracing me or
Hmm.
blessing me, something like that. So,
Right. That's awesome. So my next question is how important was it to you to collaborate with other UFO experiencers?
um, up to a point, I'm kind of my own show,
Hmm.
so I kind of like keep my head down and do my thing. Um, it was really not so much as of right now, like in regards to the book. I
Hmm.
didn't get very involved with many people, and there's a number of reasons for that. My personal life right now with my family and different things, but along the way,
Hmm.
now Chris Bledsoe, who's a very, very well-known UFO experiencer, Nancy Tremaine, who wrote two books. Chris wrote his book, UFOs of God. I went to their home. I spent like a lot of time in the UFO field at that time. I went to a UFO conference in Maine. I went to one in Laughlin, Nevada. I met, many of the ufologists and people studying the topic and so on. So it was important then, but I grew out of it. And the
Hmm.
funny thing is that I grew out of it right at the timing of moving it from ufology to near-death experiences,
Mm,
and near-death experiences that have captivated me ever since. And actually, I mentioned this, they've saved me from depression. I was
mm,
really heading towards a deep, dark, depressive dead end of what does anything matter? Nothing. There's no point in doing anything. There's no point in painting anymore. What subject does anybody care about? Who cares about a painting? Who
hmm
cares about song or songwriting or and when I started watching them on the Jeff Morrow show, mainly, and I became friends with Jeff, and I became friends with many NDE people. I'm the guy that reaches out to them. They're like, "Oh yeah, here's my email," and I'm like, "All right, you're getting an email tomorrow," and I do that. And I became friends and got to know some of them, and it's really made a difference in me to realize that, I changed my view on my existence here.
hmm
That I don't begin and end here,
Right.
that I'm certainly not afraid of dying. I am very afraid of the way I'm going to die, but I'm not afraid of dying. Like
hmm
I don't want to be crushed or burned or there's a lot of freaky things that can
Yeah.
happen in the world. But the ND thing took over for my UFO study. So I met a lot of great people. I met Grant Cameron, who forwarded the book, who's doing the forward for the book. I met Elle. I reached out to Elle. I reached out to Amira. I reached out to a number of different people that have gotten me involved in this. So
hmm
it's interesting if we just watch from above the puppet master moving everything along. It's a whole bunch of things that are aligning. And now I just want to get my musical Hypnota.
hmm
I'd love to get that produced somehow. That would be
Right.
because that's about a soft disclosure of the UFO ET topic on the in the stage and on the stage rather than in the movies, which is
hmm
something that I've just got this idea of doing. So
I really like that too. Not making it a movie because it seems like culturally we've kind of shifted away from the movie going experience to just streaming things at home. So to have it in a play setting would force people to come and experience it together.
yeah, I think so. And I think the other thing that I've been really railing on, it's almost like I can't, I'm sorry, I just can't stand when people have videos and shows with long music introductions. I don't care. I'm like, fast forward, fast forward, fast forward, get me through this garbage because I want to get right to the meat and potatoes of things, you know?
hmm
I think Jeff Maurer does a great job with that. My feeling is that we have too much special effects.
Mm,
We have special effects in commercials today that are better than most movies 15 years ago.
true.
Kids are anesthetized. It's like, oh, gee whiz, this is blowing up and Godzilla's dealing cards or whatever it is. It's like so ridiculous. It's so ridiculous what they can do that I don't think anything's getting communicated. Where when I grew up many moons ago, I mean, the day the Earth stood still and Forbidden Planet and The Thing and all these great sci-fi films from the late 50s to the 60s, the writing, the dialogue, the energy of these films was so cool. And
hmm
and the special effects were secondary.
hmm
And it wasn't all this boom, loud music and booms. Everything's a boom today. Every little
hmm
you put a pen down, it's boom. It's like it kills the effect. So we're anesthetized. So my feeling was to put it on the stage, even have puppetry, uh,
Ooh.
actors in outfits rather than I don't want any lasers in this show. I don't want any special effects. Look
hmm
at The Lion King, how marvelous a story that is for people. It's not to say that I wouldn't have a little bit of it, but I don't want to be predominantly special effects
hmm
and lasers. I want everything to be acted out. And
Right.
even like there's a scene in my show where there's a woman who dies. It's a tragic scene, and she lifts out of her body like an OBE. And I
hmm
want that on wires. I want her to
Yeah.
come up and she sings the song to the woman who's holding her. And I want that song to be sung by the spirit. As the
Mm.
body is here, this one comes up behind something and she sings the song. But I want it done old fashioned way. I don't want all this. special effects.
I definitely I think I agree with you there. The overdoneness of the special effects and whatever. It just gets played out and everybody's like, "Oh, the special effects weren't that great." And it's like, "Yeah, but what about the story?" You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like why don't we care about the
yeah,
story, the makeup, any of that? But
yeah,
I really like that. And I think like, just having the focus being on the talent, the art, the story, the text, everything. It would be just such a great, almost like a meditative experience
yeah.
if you catch my drift.
Absolutely. I mean, think about the time of radio. There
Hmm.
used to be, the radio was so effective that War of the Worlds by Orson Welles convinced people that there was an alien attack. And it was just by
Hmm.
the radio. People were jumping out of windows. It was so crazy.
Right.
Your imagination to hear a story be told is a beautiful thing. I always liken my show Hypnota to the classic movie It's a Wonderful Life with Jimmy Stewart, which
Mm.
play around the holidays, where Jimmy Stewart is so depressed because of money that's lost, and he's going to be blamed for it, that he throws himself in the river, the frozen river, and a little old man named Clarence, the angel, dives in after him. And he
Mm.
dives in and he pulls Jimmy Stewart character out, George Bailey, his name is, and he takes him through a walk through the town and shows him what that town would be like without his life.
Mm.
And it's so moving. It's just so amazingly moving. And the celebration of the end of the film when he's back and he realizes, oh my God, what a gift. I'm back and hello to everybody. And like he fixes all the problems. It's very much the inspiration for Hypnota. The ending of
Hmm.
Hypnota is a wonderful celebration of so many things, and that's where it comes from. A very simple movie. And when people go, yeah, like I had a producer say, I don't know, Doug, I don't really believe in UFOs. And I bring it up. I go, did you have to believe in angels to enjoy
Hmm.
It's a Wonderful Life? So,
Hmm.
oh, you're right. Wow. Like you didn't have to believe in an angel. You go with it. You go with the show, and it
Right.
becomes a beautiful thing, you know?
And I love that you call it self-disclosure. You're not expecting anyone to come out of this like aliens are real. They
Yeah.
just come out of it having experienced Hypnota.
My
Actually,
feeling is,
oh, go ahead.
yeah. No, my feeling is it would be great if you went to the show and you didn't know anything about it.
Hmm.
Because really it's just basically saying, think about this. Let's think a little deeper about this. By watching my two main characters go through this hunt for truth.
Hmm.
They saw something, they're trying to prove it. And now look at how many people are thwarting them, from
Mm.
religious people to the CIA to friends to being bullied. Like what it takes to tell the truth, whether it's UFOs, ETs, or pharmaceuticals or any number of other things. It's hard to be a whistleblower, you know?
Right, right. Going against the grain.
Yeah.
Um, I actually have a question on here for Hypnota since we're already talking about it. I'll just switch over to that one. So in reference to your musical Hypnota, I did a little tiny bit of research and I think it's fascinating that the name came to you, first of all, while you were sleeping. So you think of like the hypnagogic state or whatever of sleep. And then I also like to look at the word meaning because I was like, oh, that's so interesting. I feel like this, like in the English language means something.
Yeah.
So when I did it, it came down to like if it was broken down in English, it would be akin to like sleep or hypnosis with the hypno prefix, and then, but in the third person singular. So someone other than the speaker or the listener experiencing this. And then, so I was able to come up with like, okay, so to me, just if I didn't know the description of what the play was about, just going off of the name, it would to me, I would think it would mean an experience like in a sleep-like state, but not necessarily a first-person account on your part. Like, what do you make of that? Like,
Well, first of all, thank you for teaching me something about Hypnota because I didn't Mr. Figure it all out here. I forgot to even look up the word. I mean, I got it in the middle of the night and I wrote it down. I went to play hockey in the morning because I'm an avid ice hockey player, as you
Mhm.
can see probably with my shirt. And I got home and I looked at it and I read it and and things started to fall together over a period of time. So my two main characters, Nectar and Jilly,
Hmm.
based on two real life characters, my friend Nancy Tremaine and her girlfriend who passed away in real life. The same thing
Mm,
happens in my show. Um, Nectar is a Native American, partial Native American person.
mm,
She has a grandmother who's Grandma Sage Whitehawk, who is a Lakota Indian person. And Nectar talk and Sage tells Nectar as it's going along, Nectar, you have the hypnota.
mm,
And the hypnota is like, you know, The Shining, like in the movie The Shining.
hmm,
Like he's like, you got the shining, young man, that the older guy
hmm.
tells him, and she's, Grandma, what is that? The hypnota is the ability to cross over from this
Ah,
state into the dream state and bring information back. And so, yes, it's the pompic and the hypnagogic states of sleep and in between. And that's where I got the word. So I
mm,
employed the word's meaning into the show. So that's what the
wow.
show stands for. It stands for them having this her having this knowing, this kind of intuitive knowing. And I don't go into it extensively, but I tie the Lakota Indians and the native Indians into the lore of the cave drawings and the bead,
Uh-huh.
all that kind of stuff, to basically say to the audience, this is not new. This is
Mm,
on for a very long time. And and so it's something, you know, that may be jacked up right now and accelerating, but you know, there were times in our history in the 40s and 50s where this was even more disclosed than it is today, but we don't
right.
quite realize it. So that's
Right.
that's where Hypnotic came from.
I love that. I love that it's like the perfect title. I feel like it sums up the story without even having a description just in the title. And I really like what you're doing with it, and it kind of harkens back to the conversation we had about special effects. It's like when you say this has been something that's been disclosed for a long time, I'm like I observe like the younger generations a lot now, and anytime I see like a UFO video or photo, and like young people get a hold of it, they're like, "Oh, you could have made that with CGI. Like this is probably CGI." So it's like when you talk about in your play, we have cave drawings, we have, oral traditions talking about these beings and whatnot. It really just clicks together for me in my head, like, oh my God, yeah. Like,
Yeah. And I mean, biblical drawings and renderings and things that are in the sky that are like, what's that doing in the sky in the 1400s? I mean, it doesn't
hmm,
make sense. So there is a lot of stuff. In fact, I have a theory about all this CGI and everything. It's not a good one, but it's a theory that one of the reasons why they're pushing on this is so that they're giving the criminals in our world plausible deniability that that's not me. Nope, that's
hmm,
not me. You know, all the stuff that's going on behind the scenes because we have a world that's being run by blackmail and coercion.
right,
And it's almost impossible to stop.
right.
So I think that now they have this, you know, now they have this thing where, well, you can prove that it wasn't me because you can just say that's CGI. So
Hmm,
you know, my dad used to tell me when I was a kid, he's like, Doug, you know, show me a picture. You can't fake a picture. He used to
hmm,
say this. And now that's all anyone does is fake a picture.
hmm,
Facebook to Twitter to this and that. Somebody writes me, "Hi, my name is so and so," and they're using a picture that's not even them. I mean, it's
hmm.
how do you keep up with everything? So, but I think that there's a lot of that going on, you know.
So actually my next question kind of fits into what you were going with there. So in your opinion, what do you think that Black Hawk could have been doing? Like, do you have any opinions on the military and, CIA and whatnot in reference to the UFO phenomenon?
Well, I happen to have one of the highest level CIA people as a friend, and that
Mm,
through. So when I was years ago, maybe 6, 7 years ago, when I was on some of these blogs and stuff, and I met Grant Cameron, and Grant Cameron was on, I was introduced to someone named Dan Smith. Dan,
Hmm.
a physicist, was friends with Dr. Ronald Pandolfi from the CIA,
Oh,
who was,
okay.
at the time, I was told, I didn't know, I was told, is the head of the weird desk being the CIA, the UFOs and unexplained events.
Hmm.
Was the head of it. Now, how am I going to get to meet this person and his wonderful wife, Aaliyah? And so, so I pulled a little smart diplomatic thing, and I saw a picture of their daughter, and their picture of their daughter was maybe 5 years old. She's an adorable little girl, and she loved cheetahs. And she would talk about Cheetah Land, which was some land she said she came from, Cheetah Land.
Hmm.
I looked at her and I blah blah blah, and I put it together and I made a portrait of her. I painted a portrait of Ron and Aaliyah's daughter, Kashmir, and I showed it to Dan Smith because I didn't know Ron or Aaliyah, and I wasn't sure what I'm doing here. I'm stepping on crazy ground here. Um, Dan was like, "Oh my!" He's like, "That's beautiful, Doug. They're gonna love that." He showed it to Ron and Aaliyah, and we somehow got in contact with each other. I think Aaliyah reached out to me somehow, and we became friends. And I've been going to their home ever since. They invite,
Nice.
and they don't invite anybody to their house, but they invited me. So and you know what I learned? I learned about the fact that Ron's a real soldier. I got to give him a lot of credit. Ron's, first of all, funny guy if you get to know him. Um, a real soldier. It's like he's not going to tell you anything. He's not going to
Hmm.
tell you anything that he shouldn't. But he's given me enough crumbs off the table that I could pick up through conversations to know that the phenomena is real.
Hmm.
Any specific thing, anything like that? No, he's not going to tell me. He did tell me something. He said, Doug, it would be a miracle for you to sift through all the garbage that's out there,
Hmm.
find the things that are actually real. So, but that means there is actually something real.
Right.
So I got involved in that, and I got to know them. How did that tie in? Because you just asked me something, and I'm sort of
I just remembered part of your chapter. You were talking about the Black Hawk and how
oh
it was
okay.
following you.
Yeah, thank you for bringing it back home here. So I got to know them, and but at the time that I did that sighting, I don't believe I had met them or seen them yet.
Hmm.
When I did that sighting, when I saw that coming home on a Sunday morning and looked up in the sky and ran in the house, and I told a friend, keep your eye on that. And I ran in the house and got my tripod and everything like that. And I started photographing it, and then came in and looked at all the photographs on the computer, enlarged them, and realized what I'm seeing, that it wasn't just a white star or a
Hmm.
white thing in the sky. And I put it all together. I sent an email out to different people with those photographs. Now, how in God's name did a Black Hawk helicopter show up, you know, shortly after? It
Right.
didn't make any sense to me. Was this pre-surveillance, or are we all being monitored, or like how did they know that I came up with that and
Hmm.
sent it on an email? So I never really understood, but I'm telling you, and no one would ever be able to argue with me, it was specifically for me,
Hmm.
because it's never happened since. It's only happened once in the 40 years that I'm in this building. It's only happened once. It was so low, so unbelievable. And when I left, got in the car and went to a coffee shop at the end of town, it was up there too. So
Oh my.
I'm like, all right, like, you want a cup of coffee? I mean, uh, come down, I'll hand it to you. You can take back, it was
Yeah.
just incredible. And I never really got an answer. And no, I'm very respectful of Ron in the agency because I don't push him. I think that's one of the reasons why they took a liking to me is I don't just So one of the guys in the UFO field said, "Oh, you're just like the rest of us. You just want to try to get a scoop and this." And I'm like, "No, if I didn't get along with them, I wouldn't want to go back again." And I
Hmm.
got along with them, and we ended up becoming such good friends on a number of other topics that we mostly talk about ice skating for Kashmir, their daughter, and we talk about gardening, and we
Hmm.
garden in the backyard, raising kids. Ron and I fix things. He's very mechanical like me. He's a very, very brilliant guy, very mechanical. And like UFOs never even come up anymore. So it's like that kind of thing. But the Black Hawk has always perplexed me, and I don't know how that happened. I really don't.
Yeah. Huh. Interesting. All right. Let me see if any of my other questions make any sense at this point, because it seems like we've covered pretty much some of them, you know.
Yeah.
Um, so to bring up that one UFO that you observed in the infrared outside of the human eye, do you know of anything like was it just, an idea that came to your mind to make you think of doing infrared one day or
I think I watched something on television, or YouTube or somewhere where it was a UFO show and somebody was showing a regular camera and an infrared camera looking in the
ah,
same direction. And in the regular camera, nothing was in the sky. In the infrared picture, there was a little white dot sitting there.
ah,
Like, oh, okay. So they're hiding in that spectrum. And I actually didn't mechanically do it myself. I wasn't sure, but I had an extra camera, and
mm-hmm,
I found a camera company in my area, and called them up, and they said we could do that. And I brought that camera there, and they switched it from regular standard vision to the infrared. And the
that's
infrared
awesome.
looks weird. It's like a weird looking thing, but I did the same thing, and I found an object in the sky that wasn't there with my regular sight or regular camera.
Mm,
That's how I knew there was, because I'm sure, Jane, you've seen the light spectrum of and where we can see, and we're like a
right.
narrow thing. It's like, oh my God, we think we're know-it-alls. And animals can, bats, all sorts of things can perceive and pick up outside that spectrum, but we
Right.
only have that little sliver of visible light. So
Right. It begs the question, like, when you're in your house and your animals are reacting to something and you're just like, there's nothing around here. It makes me wonder now. I was like, like, are they seeing something that, we just can't see with our two eyes? And how many strange phenomenon like ghosts or what have you could be attributed to something that's just outside of our visible light spectrum.
you rang the bell right on this point, because I'll tell you briefly, real quick. My friend Joe, many years ago, 20 some odd years ago, I had cats at the time. He took his life. It was a very hard time. My friend took his life, and I went up to his house. It was all the way up north, and I walked the grounds. It was freezing cold. Had to be one of the coldest days I ever remember. Took one of my paintings way out in the backwoods, and I nailed it up on a tree as a gift to Joe and a remembrance of him. I was so messed up from that, and I came home, and I came in the house, and my cat, I had a cat named Cairo,
Hmm.
Kairow, an Abyssinian cat, coolest cat in the world. And I came home, and I was looking right out the window that's right here, and I was just staring out the window, and Cairo jumped up on me and like sat on the windowsill in front of me. So he was looking outside too. And I'm looking, and I felt a cold chill.
Mm.
And Cairo turned and went "Ruff," and jumped off the windowsill. Now I know that cat well enough. There was no reason for Cairo react that way, and I felt a cold chill. And I think Joe came and visited me.
Huh. Wow.
That's how I feel. No one's talking me out of it. Can't prove it,
Right.
but so there's an example of what you were just saying, where an animal is like perceptive to something way beyond us, and like animals know when earthquakes are coming. There's all sorts
Hmm.
of things that animals give us indication to. So yeah, that was an example.
Wow. That's amazing. Like
Yeah.
just I really admire your ability to just continue to question things without worrying about, gathering enough proof to convince anyone else. Just seeing what you see and observing it, writing it down, photographing it, and then just sharing it like, hey, I'm not trying to convince you of anything. This is just what I saw. I love that.
Right. Well, I mean, in referencing now the Beings book, which was really wonderful opportunity for me to partake in this book and also to document in one place
Hmm.
everything, most of my UFOs up to date. I think it's really important to document these things for other people to see, not to prove, but like let's say somebody buys the Beings book and they're in
Hmm.
California or they're somewhere else and they go, "Holy crow, I saw the same thing."
Mm.
Now we have a reference point of this guy Doug in his area of the country saw this on such and such a time. I leave my email, they see it, and they can reach out to me, and someone else sees it in Europe, and all of a sudden we've got like confirmation of this odd object. So I was on an interview, Jane, about do you remember in the book I put the Manta UFO,
Hmm.
that
Hmm.
little thing with the two little spikes coming out of the front.
Yeah.
It was so far away, it was so high in the sky. It's an absolute miracle that I saw it, but I saw it, took the iPhone and filmed it well enough so that I could take a still after off of it and put that in the book. And I was on an interview with a whole UFO group maybe a year ago, and someone says, "Oh, Doug, you spotted the manta? I spotted it too." And
Hmm.
he showed me his picture of the manta, and I showed him mine, and we were like, "Wow, that's like, what is this? Is it our secret space stuff? Our high tech stuff? Is it otherworldly?" So I think the Beings book is a great contribution for this reason, as to let so many other people in on the world of this and say, "I've seen something similar, and it was
Hmm.
here and it was there," and as far as the rest of the book goes, and I've yet to read it, I think there's so many experiencers and people in that book that are way above my pay grade. I've yet to take a look at that, and I'm like, that's really amazing stuff when it comes to interdimensional and
Hmm.
different stuff that people are experiencing. So I think it's really valuable.
Oh yes, definitely. And I hesitate to even create a hierarchy when it comes to disclosure because I feel like every walk of life has, the ability to have some sort of experience with these, higher dimensional beings, whoever, extraterrestrials, ghosts, whatever, and have a unique perspective that will be helpful to the collective. You know what I mean?
Oh, 100%. I mean, I had the Chandra event in my chapter, which was this being laying in my bed that I knew
Mm.
it was coming. I knew it was coming. In fact, I invited it in, Mr. Play around with the spirits thing. I invited in and and it was behind me, and it was behind me holding my wrists. It was the
Mm.
weirdest feeling in the world. And when and somehow I completed its mission here, I don't really know what it
Mm.
was. Somehow after that experience, not only did it just dissipate and move out of my space here, I internally knew 100% it's done. It will never
Mm.
return. And I've never had that feeling, that cold chill up in my loft that I used to get all the time prior to that culmination of that event. And then it was done. So there's something way beyond just us.
Hmm.
I think if the Beings book gave people just that knowledge, that wow, I mean, look, I'm not experiencing it, but these people are, and to give it some credence, I think that opening up of people's, thought process and openness is really good.
I agree. I definitely agree. You know what I mean? That's why when I read through it, I was like, wow, there's so many different perspectives. Like you have your chapter where it's just photograph, photograph, photograph. This is what we have. This is, you know, pictorial evidence for those of us that require that sort of thing. And then we have shamans experiencing things, and we have people having these dreams and visions. And I just think it all perfectly comes together. It has a little bit of everything for everyone. So, yeah.
I
Anyhow, that was all of my questions. Did you have any final like parting what's the word I'm looking for? Advice or just something that you would want to say to anybody who's listening?
Well, I think I would encourage people to get the book. I think it's great. I'm encouraged to get the book. I've only really read my own chapter, so it will be new for me. And I think some of the dyslexia that I've always had has kind of hampered me from doing a lot of reading of it. I like books on tape. I don't know if it will come out as an audiobook someday. It would be great. But I think it's been a great compilation of people and getting everyone together on it. And I saw some of the imagery from of the other experiencers on the chat that we were doing, WhatsApp, and
Mhm.
it's just amazing stuff. And mine, as Grant Cameron would say, is more than nuts and bolts, as we refer to it.
Mhm.
Actual, tangible. There is something, but there's anywhere from nuts and bolts, real craft, real metal things and objects to interdimensional things and beings that I think people should be open to. I think it's and delving into dreams, like you said, dreams are what are dreams? I mean, that's a whole other like um uh-oh, Black Hawk.
Nuh-uh. Stop.
I hear it going by.
Oh my God, don't scare me like that.
No, it's not a Black Hawk. I mean, if it was a Black Hawk, this house would be shaking like it was that time.
Oh, really?
That's
I
how
don't know
much
anything about aviation, so.
yeah, that's a powerful helicopter. Um, no, I think it's good. I think it's good for opening people's minds and it's just saying, look, these are my fellow human beings.
Mm,
Honest. I mean, they're just telling it, what's to be gained. There's no money to be made in showing up my objects. That's why all my objects in the book are free. I don't really care about anyone taking them and using them and saying, "Hey, this guy put this in the book." I have no copyrights. Anything that I experience in the UFO or spirit world, so to speak, is public domain as far as I'm concerned. So,
mm, lovely. That's great. I want to thank you so much for doing this interview with me. It was very much a pleasure, as much as it was a pleasure reading your chapter. Um, Thank you so much. So that is it for our interview with Doug today for Near Death Institute on YouTube. Make sure to get your copy of the Beings book. I'll have all of our links down below, including links for Doug, his website, his artwork, and more information on Hypnota. Thank you all for watching, and we'll see you in the next interview.
thanks, Jane. Thank you.
Thank you.